Tonight on Veritas, prepare to explore an unprecedented period of cosmic upheaval and transformation as astrologer and psychic Joseph P. Anthony joins us to reveal what the stars may hold for the final months of 2024 and beyond. With over 25 years of experience guiding countless people, from CEOs to public figures, Joseph has a unique ability to interpret cosmic cycles and symbols, shedding light on both personal and global challenges. Now, he believes his message is more crucial than ever. According to Joseph, September and October's powerful eclipses mark the beginning of a period that could alter the very fabric of American society. These aren't just astrological blips, they signal intense shifts influenced by the U.S.'s rare Pluto return, which points to a possible breakdown in our government and economic structures. We could soon find ourselves questioning the familiar systems around us as revelations begin to surface. From unexpected disruptions in communication and technology to turbulent political tensions, Joseph sees patterns in the stars that suggest a period of immense upheaval. He'll discuss potential influences on the coming election, intensifying storms like Hurricanes Helene and Milton, labor strikes, and even signs of escalating conflicts in the Middle East. But Joseph's insights extend far beyond current events. Tonight, he'll also share his understanding of the ancient symbols that have guided humanity since the beginning, from Egyptian hieroglyphs to Native American icons, symbols that hold timeless wisdom and, according to him, speak to our journey and purpose today. And in a time when reports of UFO sightings continue to grow, he'll touch on predictions about potential alien encounters, including insights from Dr. Carol Rosin on how this scenario could unfold. In Joseph's view, the future holds a dramatic transformation, with events like the giant star Betelgeuse possibly going supernova, sending waves of energy toward Earth, and rare planetary alignments reminiscent of those seen in ancient times. Joseph believes we are witnessing signals of human evolution and awakening. He envisions a new world order by 2026, a time when cosmic forces drive radical shifts in power, unprecedented social awakenings, and profound changes to the systems shaping our lives. So tonight, get ready to rethink what lies ahead as Joseph shares his unique astrological and psychic perspective on the critical events, energies, and symbols shaping our world today and tomorrow. Joseph P. Anthony is coming up next. Welcome to the VERITAS Project. I'm your host, Mel Hostelrick. If this is your first time listening, welcome home. To access tonight's full interview and all of our exclusive material, simply join the Veritas Plus family by clicking on the subscribe button at veritasproject.com. And while you're there, don't forget to check out the Veritas store for a range of great products, including focused life force energy. Experience the power of FLFE with a 15-day free trial today. No credit card required. If you're looking to get in touch with me, have a guest suggestion, or would like to provide feedback, simply click on the contact button on our website. Your thoughts and ideas are always appreciated. So sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's program. His website is planetwithin.com, and directly from beautiful Sedona, Arizona, I'd like to welcome Joseph P. Anthony. Hello, Joseph, and welcome back. How are you?
Hi, Mel. I'm doing well.
It's a pleasure to have you, especially during these times. I have to ask you first. Right now, I'm praying and I'm thinking of my brothers and sisters, not only in Florida, because that's something's coming, but in Asheville, North Carolina, but Florida. Right now, the information I'm getting from Florida is absolutely incredible. What can you tell me about Milton?
Well, just what we know, that it is absolutely a storm that somehow surprisingly intensified itself over the course of a couple of hours. So obviously these storms are being manipulated. And there's a wonderful YouTuber, and if you don't mind, I'll give you his channel name. You probably already know him, Mel, because you're a pretty good researcher yourself. Do you mind if I mention it?
No, of course,
channel?
Please do.
It's into the number 2 thin air. And that's his YouTube channel. And this kid just came on the scene, and he's a young guy, probably in the last 6 months or so. And he's showing you all these strange weather anomalies from Antarctica to how the weather is being manipulated. And he's actually capturing screenshots of these laser beams as these storms are coming in. So this is stuff I've known about, the NEXRAD towers and the satellites and everything else that they use to guide storms and to intensify them. So this other storm, looks pretty severe, and let's see where it goes or where it's being guided, because he's showing the same thing. These lasers are shooting into it, and and it makes no sense. And some, climatologists might say, well, those beams are there to test the storms and to test the temperature and to test all this nonsense. You and I both know, and your listeners know, that there's a lot of manipulation taking place with the weather. As a matter of fact, it dates back, I believe, all the way to the 40s and 50s. And even Lyndon Baines Johnson made speeches about manipulating the weather in the 60s. Do you remember that, Mel?
Of course, and there's dozens of patents that are out there.
Right, exactly. So now we have to take everything as it's being manipulated. And so, I've gone down that rabbit hole. I'm sure you have and your listeners have, that it's pretty deep. The rabbit hole is pretty deep, and we're living in a matrix of some kind that's being manipulated on many different levels. So the weather is not a surprise to us. But unfortunately, as we go into this election, theater season that we're going into, we're going to have everything thrown at us, including the kitchen sink. So,
in 1992, before that, I was in many hurricanes, but I was in Andrew in Florida, and I remember how devastating it was. But let me just read this. This is from Joey Curcio, and it says, what is now Hurricane Milton went from a weak tropical depression at 1,005 millibars on Saturday afternoon to the Cat 5 monster at 925 millibars it is now in roughly 40 hours. At an 80 millibar drop in pressure and an increase in winds of 125 miles per hour in roughly 40 hours. Bear with me. I don't mean to geek out about this, but this is going to be important. I have been awake since 3:30 this morning. It is now 12:30. And in those 9 hours alone, the central pressure has dropped over 35 millibars, and the top winds have increased by more than 45 miles per hour. In a normal storm where rapid intensification occurs, this sort of explosive growth takes place over 24 hours, not 8. And even that is seriously rapid intensification. We just witnessed a 90 mile per hour jump in less than 24 hours. That is not all normal or organically occurring. This happened actually in Acapulco, and now many people know that too, Joseph.
Mm-hmm. Again, not surprising. All over the world, we have these NEXRAD towers, and everyone thinks they're just, they're the monitor of the weather. No, they're using frequency manipulation to guide these storms. And it's so obvious, I don't even think they care anymore. Because as soon as you mention it, your average family member or friend is just going to think you're a kook. But yet the evidence and the information is right there, and especially coming from people that have blown the whistle on this stuff. That it's actually happening. Weather manipulation, frequency manipulation, and they're intensifying these storms on purpose. That storm in North Carolina. That is a very unusual storm to intensify over a mountain region, because usually when storms hit in a mountain, they lose their intensity.
They're done.
Mm-hmm. They're being met with an amazing amount of resistance. But something kept that thing going all the way up the East Coast into North Carolina. So,
and nothing happened on the coast. If you think you're safe, folks, from weather control, consider that Asheville, it's a city nearly 300 miles from the nearest coastline, 2,134 feet, and they just get wiped out. Does that mean that we're not safe anywhere, Joseph?
Well, unfortunately, right now, whoever's doing this, is basically turning it up a few notches. Because, and I've tried to say this before to so many people, you got to look at the bigger picture. And this is why I moved away from the politics, even though I do talk about it and so on. You got to look at who is running the show, who's making all this happen, who's in charge of all this stuff, who has the power to control the weather. It's not a Republican, it's not a Democrat, it's way beyond them. And so, they've done this before. They did this in Lahaina. They did this in Southern California, where people captured these lasers hitting the ground and causing these fires, strange fires where the whole house and a whole car gets disintegrated, I mean, literally melting. And then as the trees are fine, nothing touches the trees.
And the trash containers, anything plastic stays.
Right, exactly. So really strange stuff that's going on. And my only conclusion could be that whoever these manipulators are, they seem to have deep pockets, very powerful. They're either connected to large corporations like the space agencies in California. They have that technology. And the criminal, corporations that have been literally fleecing humanity. And now, over the last, I would say, 6 years or so, are going after people's homes. And if you understand that, a criminal corporation like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street and all these other criminal Wall Street firms are so big and so powerful now that they're basically dictating, what they want. So they destroy an area and then they go in there and buy the land cheap. But now they're doing it, from what I gather, and I do have friends in North Carolina who are about 45 minutes away from all that damage. And have told me that FEMA has stepped in, but they're not allowing anything to happen. They're basically like a Gestapo, and the people are not enjoying any of it. But then we discover there's some sort of lithium mines in the area.
And quartz.
Imagine that. You're right, and quartz, all in that particular area, and it makes you wonder: what are they doing? Are they destroying these areas on purpose, not just because of the political season that we're in? Or is it because they're going to step in about a year from now and say, the government's going to take over this land. We're going to buy out everybody's land and just take it over.
I think it's a multifaceted approach. First of all, Ashland, I think, is about 40,000 people. They sent about 40,000 mail-in ballots a few days before the hurricane. They've only received about 1,000, and that's all Trump country. And now this hurricane is heading to Florida, and northern Florida is mostly Trump country. So it seems that they're trying to do something they're on the ropes right now. They are trying to throw everything at us. And if we don't succeed, we will never see another election. And the United States as we know it. I always say life before 9/11, life before COVID. Well, all those are going to be so nice in the next few years if something doesn't change.
You're absolutely right. But unfortunately, right now, the big issue really is, Mel, that humanity is waking up too fast because of the internet, because of this cosmic energy coming in. And I've talked about this on many videos in my live streams on Sundays, and so humanity is awakening at a rapid pace that they're not able to control their schemes, their control systems, their puppets, and so on and so forth. Now, I've said this before many times on video. The only reason I support Trump is because he is helping to awaken the masses. And I mean the average person that is clueless. And so he is showing people how bad it is. And the whole team behind him, by the way, he's not doing this by himself. There's a whole team behind him that's doing this. Now, I remain skeptical about everything because I have that critical thinking and, I'm not discounting anything. The possibility that this could all be a psychological operation taking place, So, but the process of awakening. Do you remember the 17th letter of the alphabet and the forums and all that QAnon stuff?
Of course.
Okay. Well, I remember watching it from the very beginning, listening to it, and right away I realized it was all encoded. Everything that they were putting out was referencing change, but it was all encoded on purpose because that's how the military intelligence works. It's not going to come out and tell you exactly what it's doing. It's going to do it in code reference. And many of the code references, Mel, were suggesting you have to show the people. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember reading those or looking them over or listening to some other people talk about that.
I do, but I warn people when it comes to Q and all that, hopium. Yeah. I don't want to give people hopium either.
Right. But what they were doing was, and they do this in regular television and programming, is in order to get their program in place, they have to condition society. They have to plant the seed in the subconscious of society, right? Does that make sense? And they do it with the movies. They do it with television. They do it with politicians. And now possibly they're doing it here with the world, given that Trump and this movement to the right is so big across the world, anti-government, anti-this, anti-that. And maybe they're trying to destroy it on purpose, destroy the whole system on purpose, because let's face it, they want to rebuild it in a new way using a new digital currency that they control, or multiple digital currencies that they control. So again, this could all be a psychological operation, but I'm a messenger here. You're a messenger here to help guide people to understand things at a deeper level. I do it on the spiritual because that's my specialty, and you do it in your unique way, and everyone else that's doing it in their own unique way. So this is what's happening right now. There's simultaneously with all this like destruction, or it appears to be destruction or change, there's a great awakening, spiritual awakening that's occurring. Do you see that too, Mel?
I do, and not only that, but they have the revelation of the method. A lot of people say, "Oh, what you see in The Simpsons, that's just a coincidence. What you saw in The Matrix." But I think they always have to plant seeds out there to say, "Well, we told you you were not paying attention." I read this meme today, which made sense about what you're saying, because I think we manifest the thoughts that you entertain. So this reads: "The magicians behind the curtains, they know that human consciousness co-creates reality based on what the mind believes to be true and real. This process is amplified when instilled in the collective consciousness of the masses. They are projecting what they want into your minds so that you build it for them," which is exactly what you just said.
Exactly. That's right. And that's it. But my job is a little bit more unique in that I'm not only trying to wake people up to remember who they are, because I've gone down this rabbit hole. I've experienced reality beyond this physical world through magic mushrooms and ayahuasca experiences. And so I've seen things that and I've always been intuitive, really intuitive, where I get hits, and we're all intuitive. Everyone's intuitive. So it's just a matter of to what degree and, how they use it or understand it. So I'm fortunate enough that I've been studying this my whole life. Human behavior, spirituality, science, religions, all of it, and I have a good understanding of a lot of it. And because of this great awakening, we must understand who we really are and the nature of this reality. None of this reality is real. And what I mean by that, and I know you know what this means, and your listeners know what this means, that everything is vibrating light and energy, or sound and light that's vibrating, including this physical suit that you're seeing right now. On the screen, my cells at the subatomic level are just vibrating light at high frequencies, and they're being kept together by some force of nature. And our senses are decoding everything. So everything in this reality is sort of vibrating energy and is being manipulated on some level. So my job, and many others like me, are to remind people of what's real. And the biggest part is stop giving your power away to governments, corporations, fears, institutions, religions, and so on and so on. Make sense? So this is what's happening. And so and it's a slow process, because you cannot interject all of the information all at once, because society will literally snap. Like, could you imagine if we literally told humanity about the truth of the world and what these ancient texts were really talking about? That there were beings from either other planets or the dimensions that came here after a major flood, and they began to help humanity, and everyone thought they were gods. Then you had this other group of beings that wanted to be worshipped, and wanted women and wanted to get drunk. I mean, could you imagine if we actually told them the truth, Mel, about their religions and how they got started and what actually happened, 7,000 years ago?
No, we can't. And this is why even the World Economic Forum has stated that the biggest fear is non-compliance. That is their Achilles heel. That's their kryptonite. But even after what we've seen in the past 5 years with the pandemic, you would think that most people would now be awake, but some of them are still, just give me the next one. What is next for us to talk about? Is it Ukraine? Do I have to support? Is it Israel? Is it Palestine? Is it this? Is it that? It's like they can't think for themselves. So my question is, are these people vibrating? And I don't mean to say this in an arrogant manner, but sometimes you go into a room and you see a scenario of something and you get it. You know what they're trying to do. But most people around you are just so asleep. Is it just like we cannot see all the spectrum of light and sound? that we have this ability now that we didn't have before to discern what's really taking place?
Well, yes. But the problem is, Mel, is that I believe that 70 to 75% of the population doesn't have that ability to see beyond what's right in front of them. And they're being conditioned, like mindless drones. They're just vibrating at a lower frequency.
NPCs.
Right. Not in a bad way. It's just their purpose. And I came to that conclusion when you study things. You know how everything is a fractal. Everything starts off at a small, minute level, then it spirals out and it becomes
Fibonacci
bigger.
sequence, yes.
Right. Yeah. And everything multiplies and emulates itself, right? So let's look at the Earth, right? What's the Earth mostly made up of? Water, right? 70, 75%. What's our body made up of? Water, 70, 75%. So it appears that there has to be a body of mass that holds everything in place. And so these folks that are 70 to 75% of the population, they are very simplistic in nature. They are very much, their role is to just hold the frequency at a certain level of consciousness. While you and I, we're the 10 to 15%, that's a little bit above that. We're able to see through the illusion. We're able to see through things, and we're able to, make decisions based on a bigger picture. And then you have the 5% or whatever it is at the very top. These would be considered the Masons and the people that are just part of the clique. And so that's what I believe. And that's why 70 to 75% of the population is always going to be that simplistic mindset, or that living in fear mode, or just wanting to follow along. It's like a school of fish. If you see a school of fish, there's only a few of them up front, and it's guiding the rest of the fish around the ocean. It's the same with humanity. So I've decided that I'll do my best to remind people who they are, because once you plant that seed in their consciousness, hopefully something inside will trigger it and go, he makes sense, or this point makes sense, and maybe I should dig a little deeper. But unfortunately, many of these 70 to 75% of the population, what's the first thing they do when they're desperate and in fear? They turn to religion. And that's been the Achilles heel of humanity. On the one hand, it's helped humanity a lot, give them hope. On the other hand, it's limited their beliefs to understanding things at a deeper level. Do you see that too, Mel?
Well, of course, I grew up a Catholic. I was an altar boy for many years, so I get exactly where you're coming from. If you step outside that good book, and I'm a Catholic, but I get it. Sometimes you have to step outside the book and look inside and see what's around you. Is it a control mechanism? Is it something that we need? But at the same time, I think a country that loses spirituality loses itself also.
Well, yes, absolutely. And that's why I always believe that religion, and I mean the three major religions, it's a double-edged sword to society. Because on the one hand, it's almost a necessity for these 70 to 75% of the population that cannot see beyond anything that's going on, or even the religion for that matter. A simple question about religion is, do you know where it came from? Do you know how it got started? Who started it? Where did it come from? But they don't have the ability or the capacity or the time or whatever it is to go down that rabbit hole, And so I guess there's something built into us to want to know more. There's got to be more to reality in some level. And these folks, unfortunately, don't have it. But that's what I think about religion, and I know all about, Catholicism. I remember being in those after school programs, and I was about 12, 13, and, listening to the nuns talk about Jesus this, Jesus that. And I'm like, what about all those other gods? Why aren't they ever mentioning the Greek gods, the Egyptian gods? And because I was always studying on my own, outside of school. And it made me wonder, like, something's wrong here. Something is not right. And I've always sensed that in school. I did not like school one bit, because I felt like I was being conditioned, or they were forcing things into me that just did not feel right. I don't know if you had that same feeling, Mel, but
did we go to the same school? Because exactly, so. If you say, wait a second, you're telling me to only look here. Why can't I look there? Why can I engage in some comparative theology so that I know what other religions offer? I bet you all of them offer some good as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's good in the religions in that it's making you think outside the box in terms of your daily life, and there's truth to many of the religions. But unfortunately, as you and I know, and the listeners know, that it's been altered. It's been lots of information has
Hijacked.
been right. It's been omitted. Things have been rewritten. I mean, it's just incredible to me. And it's such an easy study to understand how all of this has happened. And then you got to scratch your head and go, who the hell's doing all this? And then you have to look to the leadership of all the three major religions, especially, Judaism and Catholicism. What's going on at those top levels there that they're keeping from us? That's my question.
Believe in King James. A lot of people say, oh, the King James Bible. Well, King James, there was a man that wrote it, rewrote it. And who was Buckingham? Take a look at who his lover was and why the name Buckingham Palace came along. So it makes you wonder a lot of things. The Vatican right now, we see this Jesuit Pope. Do you really think he embodies what real Christianity is? I don't think so.
Right. But you see, the thing that I've studied and understood, and even with my, do you know who Jason Bershears is, Mel?
It sounds familiar.
Okay, well, he came on the scene a couple of years ago, and now he's kind of blowing up. He's got a unique story, and his channel is Archaics, ARCH.
Oh, I do. I know Archaics. Yes, okay. Absolutely. Wasn't he in prison?
Yes, he was. Okay. 27 years, but all he did was read old books, And I had a conversation with him about a month ago on his channel. He invited me on, and we did speak. But I've got 5 of his books, and I've read about 2 or 3 of them already. And it's fascinating because I knew a lot, but this guy just fills in a lot. But what he's talking about when it comes to religion, and he went down, and he was a devout Southern Baptist. Okay, he knew religion, and he said he read the Bible in prison probably about 50 times, back cover to cover. He researched this. Anyway, you can listen to him yourself. Many of your listeners probably already know who he is.
Actually, we've been trying to get a hold of him. So, FYI.
Well, try. I mean, absolutely, because he's a very interesting guy. And he's doing a lot of interviews now with different people. He's opened up his forum to try and get different points of view from everyone. But one of the things that he said, which was so on point, which I discovered as well, is that all of these religions date back to the Babylonian Sumerian period. This is where the real Christos, or the Christ, came from, because they understood that we had some sort of energy or soul or anointment, because that's what Christos means in Greek, means the anointed, and within us. And so all of these cultures before Christianity, before Judaism, all knew about the Christ consciousness. They knew about the Christos. Okay? And then fast forward, and he gives you an elaborate timeline. Detail after detail in his books. There are just fantastic references to where he got the information from, and so on and so forth. And so you've got a couple of thousand years of Babylonian text, not even biblical. They didn't call it biblical. It was just references of humanity, how it worked. And then along came these Semite people, or the Israel, they weren't even Jews yet, but they were the Israelis that came into that area and basically took all the information that they learned there for years and then brought it back to the Middle East and began to assimilate it and create their own religion. So they took the ancient Babylonian information and then, went back and created some form of Judaism. And then, of course, they geared it to benefit themselves and their own society. But the whole premise of, and of course, 2,000 years later, we have, the Romans and the Catholic Church coming in and creating, Christianity as we know it, and then forcing it down everyone's throat through the Crusades. But my point being is this idea of Christos was so well known throughout antiquity, before religions as we know them. And especially when we go into the Persian culture with the Zoroastrianism, okay? They knew all of this stuff. And so here we are today, sort of the watered down version of what Christ is, Christ consciousness, the spirit, all that, and that's the stuff that I also see being completely transformed in about one generation. It's going to accelerate, Mel, to this understanding, back to the original understanding of the Christ, of the Christos. Okay, so this is what we have going on right now. So there's going to be a lot of psychosis happening to humanity just in the next couple of years. And part of it is going to be religion, part of it's going to be government understanding, part of it's going to be the financial system, part of it's going to be a sense of purpose, and why are we here, and that whole 9 yards.
Well, look at we know a lot about Egyptian mythology because of the Greeks, and if you look at Egyptians, you have Horus, you have Isis, which is the same as Mary and Jesus. So I asked Dolores Cannon many, many years ago. She said she went to the Vatican and she was taking a tour. And she asked the tour guide, why do I see so many Egyptian artifacts here? And the guy said, come with me. I'm going to show you a part of the Vatican not all people see. And it was all Egyptian stuff. Right. And he said the reason why is because Christianity is derived from the Egyptian mythology in order to make it more digestible to the people. So it makes you wonder if that is a lie, because we've never been told that in Sunday school. Were you?
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. Not at all. Absolutely. But again, unfortunately, it is being used to control humanity, control the masses, at the same time, give them a little hope. So that's why I call religion the double-edged sword of society, because whichever way you turn, you have a chance of getting cut, symbolically. And it's almost like a necessary right now as we go through this transition. And one of the other things that Jason has brought up, which was very good, he says, and he was also very good at understanding cycles and patterns. And he said that the religious right would become more powerful in the coming years. And we see that right now. We see a lot of the Christian people getting together and becoming more, giving themselves hope. And especially in times like this where we have horrific events that take place, people, unite in churches and so on and so forth. And that's the good side of religion, is that it brings people together in a community, in a social setting, and they collectively feel connected to something, And so that I have no problems with that. But it's when we start believing in all of these messiahs and, the original story and the original text, and people, just embrace this idea that some savior is going to save them. Even Trump, people are hoping that this man's going to save their lives, is going to make them better. And I'm like, no, you have the power. You have the control over that physical suit, And so that's, that gets me a little bit. And I'm like, all right, I got to understand that, everyone's got the free will to do what they want. And if they want to believe in Santa Claus and the tooth fairy, that's up to them, But I just try and help people, remind them of, especially as we go through these crazy times right now, Mel, especially in this next 6 months. I don't know if you saw any of my videos that I put up on YouTube, but we've got some really strange alignments coming in just in this month alone. So,
well, before we get into the astrology, and I did watch those videos, I follow your work, and I'm always impressed with your prowess when it comes to all of this. But when it comes to the next 30-some days, what do you think is going to happen? Because the way I see it, and again, this might be an illusion. This might be the Matrix. This might be, we're playing characters, because for the first moment that I saw Biden take office, it almost looked like a studio. First, they blocked the Capitol. Right. Then you see the studio looking, Biden looking like a clone. Sometimes he's taller. Sometimes he's shorter. It's almost like they're just making us watch a movie. What do you think is really taking place behind the scenes?
Well, I've said this before on my own channel, and I've, in my own private community too. I have a couple of communities now. We are watching a show, and this goes back to that 17th letter of the alphabet stuff, where that psychological operation is taking place. Remember, they said we have to show humanity. People have to feel the pain, they said on there. They have to show them. So I believe that there is some sort of white hat, quote unquote, and this is what's coming out, but I think there's some sort of operation taking place at a high level, either with extraterrestrials that are human like us, and they're basically saying, we've got to help humanity wake up a little bit, or we have to change the system because we can't let this continue this way. And it has a lot to do with this galactic energy coming in from the center of space. It's actually positive energy that's coming in that they're trying to block. But basically what is actually happening is Something or someone behind the scenes is directing all this. Now, I call it, the deep state intelligence. No, excuse me, not the deep state, but the white hat intelligence agencies. And it's all around the world. They're all seem to be uniting to try and rid their countries of, or at least expose the corruption. I know Putin's been doing it in his country. In China, it's a little bit harder because those people their brains are so wired into a certain mindset. It's happening in the United States with Trump. It's happening all around in South America. A lot of countries in the Scandinavian countries, the same thing. People are just sort of waking up slowly. And so I think there's an operation, a worldwide operation to slowly wake up humanity, force them to look at the choices they made and the fears that they have about society and the world and, their governments, and expose it all. They're slowly removing the Band-Aid to expose it all. I mean, when you've got Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones on a platform on YouTube now, and Alex was reinstated on X and so on, and he's talking about child pedophilia, and these rituals and all this other stuff, and many others, like even James O'Keefe and some of these other big name people that are literally getting to mainstream, and they're allowing it. Something's telling me that they're doing this on purpose, that they're trying to slowly show humanity how bad the system really is and how you've allowed it to happen, in a sense, by turning your head or not paying attention or not getting involved. So we're witnessing that right now on some level. Now, is it a psychological operation? It could be. Everyone, they could be doing this all at once, sending us as much information, trying to overload our consciousness so we go, I don't want to hear anymore. I don't care anymore. That mindset. But some of us are, they're trying to help humanity go, hey, you've got the power, your friends, your family, the people closest to you, your communities. That's where the real nucleus of the power is. So what kind of community do you want at the local level? And that's where, especially when it comes to politics, that's where the real power is, the local level, the local communities, and then within the states and, the smaller counties and so on. So I think we have a big awakening happening. At the same time, it's exposing everything, Mel, and it has to happen this way.
In the past few days, I created a video about why FEMA is blocking civilians, and also because this is disaster capitalism. Just like we saw during the war in Iraq, where we had, Cheney and company out there, charging $1,000 per case of Coca-Cola and so on. Right now, we see it with FEMA. They want their own contractors. They don't allow people to go in. But when I see this happening, I think of, it's no longer the United States of America. I see the gaslighted states of BlackRock. And you can add State Street and Vanguard as well. But the way I see it, these companies, as you know, they want to get into debt all the time, debt. And they can no longer pay for it. So what do? They issue stock. And who comes along? BlackRock and the two of them. And they put their board of directors there. So if you buy Coca-Cola and you buy Pfizer, you realize, let's put some poisons in Coca-Cola. Not that he didn't have it before. But that way we can get our customers into the hands of Pfizer and the rest of them now. So I think these three companies essentially rule the United States and possibly the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you got the military-industrial complex, which is the enforcers. Mel, we're looking at organized crime at the highest
level. Yes.
Oh, man. And the governments are just the sort of the enforcers, the middlemen. The politicians are just the middlemen. They're the ones running, putting the laws into place. It's the banks and these criminal corporations. And then you've got the military intelligence. And I'm not talking about the good people in the military intelligence. I'm talking about, the CIA, NSA, and some of these other three-letter alphabet agencies that are basically, under the thumb of the Vatican and the controllers of the world. And so this is what, we're able to piece together. Thank God we had the internet, 10, 15 years ago that was unfiltered. Because now we have the AI that controls everything.
Yes.
So going back when the internet was really free from any restriction, it was a great time to gather as much information as possible. And of course, the books and many writers like David Icke and Jim Marrs and so many other great writers that are able to connect the dots. And so now humanity's at a crossroads where because of this cosmic energy and because of the changes that are coming at us rapidly, these next 6 months are going to be a major turning point, Mel, major turning point. So, and we're going to see it.
What unique astrological energies do you see this fall that are so powerful for transformation?
Well, just today, today is the 7th. Okay. I've said, and this was on my live stream that I did on YouTube on Sunday, that starting on the 9th, the energy level starts to go up. It starts to peak because of the outer planets. We have some alignments that are taking place. I've got my notes right here. We've got Mars. Mars is getting closer and closer to an opposition to Pluto. Mars is the god of war, symbolically, and Pluto is the great destroyer. And they're coming into a direct opposition. So Mars is in Cancer, Pluto is in Capricorn. And so as these two have been known to cause chaos and war and conflict. They're getting closer and closer to each other. But the new moon also squared Mars. So that means the next week or two, we could look for major conflicts, issues having to do with war, destruction, even water issues. I called a lot of water issues. And then we got Venus, and Venus is in Scorpio. And then we have Uranus that is in Taurus. And these two are going to be at odds in the next 2 weeks. So we've also got some alignments between the sun and Mars. We got, we've got the sun and Pluto all in the next 2 weeks. These are not docile, passive energies. They are destructive energies. They disrupt us personally, where we feel irritated or agitated. And then we see the ripple effect in society, like somebody goes off on the deep end on a shooting spree or something stupid like that. And so we could see a lot of that. But on my last YouTube live stream, I did say something else was coming. And I hope I'm wrong on this one. And I did say this because what I'm seeing is something that's going to target Arizona or the Southwest. I don't know. Did you see that live stream I did yesterday?
No, I did not see that one. Tell me about what's happening.
This is important because there is the possibility of either a hurricane, a storm, or some event that takes place in the southern part of Arizona. And this may be, could be a destructive, one of those severe sandstorms or something like that. But what makes it so unique is that we have a power plant, the Palo Verde,
yes.
Yeah, is down there. And so because of the astrology also, Pluto is awakening on October 11th, and it will be going into Aquarius. Aquarius and Pluto, by the way, both of them, represent things like plutonium, nuclear power, could cause major disruption or devastation, or we could just come to some realizations. But because Arizona is one of these so-called swing states, and we're only talking about Maricopa County because the rest of the city, the rest of the counties in Arizona, mostly red.
Yeah.
But they may be causing some event so big that everyone's going to be taking notice. Now, and this is all, again, being orchestrated because we have to stop the election. And I said this at the beginning of the year. We may not even have an election because of an event or circumstances that are surrounding that time period. So I hope I'm wrong. But I would say my spidey senses and what I'm picking up on, and then I listened to some other so-called psychics, mediums, remote viewers. They're all saying the same thing. A major event is going to happen before the election. And so I'm suggesting, given the astrology that I'm seeing and tuning into what I'm seeing, is either it's going to be around the full moon, which is in Aries, and there's a giant T, actually a cross, in astrology, which is really severe. It's very strong energy. We feel it. That could be activated around the 17th. So I would say look for a major event around the 17th, before or after. Could be 5-10 days on either side, because the energy is so strong throughout the entire month. It's not just one week or anything. Look for a major event in the Southwest. This could be a hurricane, and all of a sudden we start seeing those lasers activated. But the Palo Verde power plant has always been on my mind. Every time I drive by that place, I get this weird feeling about it, And I had that same instinct when I was working in New York City about, 2 years before the towers came down. I used to make deliveries right there, and I would look up at the buildings, building 7, and I would look and I go, man, could you imagine if there was a fire at the top of those floors? How would they put that out? How would that work? I mean, every time I went there for a delivery, I remember my spidey senses just kept saying, looking up, going, fires. Why, if these things, ever caught fire, what the hell would happen? And what happens 2 years later? The devastation of the towers. And I'm like, that's what I was picking up on. So I'm sensing the same or very similar energy coming in for southern Arizona, or it could be in the desert of California, or it could even be New Mexico, And so there could be an explosion, or there could be something that happens in these regions that we're taking notice of.
Now, stay with Arizona for a moment. I mean to interject, but you said something really interesting. Ever since this character, Katie Hubbs, came here to Arizona, which, by the way, she was being more absent than anybody else. I mean, I've seen her doing anything.
Right.
Something told me that she was there for a reason, because this is McCain country. If you know, right. I'm not going to get into the details of why they're so powerful here, but it has a lot to do with what's in southern border, the cartels and so on.
Yeah.
But what you said about the Palo Verde nuclear power plant in Tonopah, 40 miles southwest of where you are in that area, it tells me, what's Phoenix? Phoenix rises from the ashes. These people love to have these stories. Look at 9/11 and the rest of it. But it would be the perfect scenario. You have a nuclear meltdown, which, by the way, they provide electricity to California, New Mexico, Texas. It's powerful. If something happens there, this is the Phoenix situation. And then there's Katie Hubbs. They couldn't have the opponent be the one. It has to be one of theirs.
Exactly. Now, I'm hoping there's not devastation. They may just shut the power plant down and have no electricity to all those locations that you said. Can you imagine that happening on election day? Or before it, and they can't get it back up. So whatever it is, it absolutely seems to be the Southwest. But unfortunately, some of the remote viewers said they're picking up on an event of an explosive type or something so big that it'll be very much noticed. And so, again, I hope we're all wrong. Nobody wants that, especially, I live in Arizona. And so it's just, nobody wants to see that kind of destruction. And so, but we'll see. But that's one of the things I'm seeing as a possibility. And I say this as a possibility because the more of us look at this event from a higher vantage point or keeping it at a sort of higher vibrational level, and then I tell people, do not live in fear. When you hear stuff like this, don't go, oh my God, the end of the world. No, do not feed it any fear. You want to keep it at a higher intellectual vibration and go, okay, what can I do? And I made the suggestion to people that are listening, meditate, quietly close your eyes. Do not beg to any God or anything like that. Just envision a white light or of energy, of positive energy in that southern region. And this will help the region, sort of slow the energy down or anything that happens in that area. It sounds a little kooky, but if you understand how energy works, the collective consciousness can make a difference if it meditates and, creates that reality rather than the other one of destruction and all kinds of things falling apart and so on and so forth.
What about all this chatter that I've heard lately in the past few weeks that the federal government and all its agencies are preparing for a mass casualty event before the election? Have you heard that too?
Oh yeah. I've heard again, this again, it would have to be so big that it would be devastating. Now, the other possibility is some sort of earthquake out in the Pacific, which sends a tidal wave 100-foot high into California, Southern California, which even spills into Arizona, because there's been a lot of speculation about that. And that is another possibility, only because some of those earthquakes that happen out at sea, they are devastating because they build up so much momentum under the water. They create such a wave. And this has already happened in Japan. and we have that tectonic plates, I forgot the name of it, that's out in the Pacific there, that is volatile. And remember, Mel, the Earth is moving. The Earth is tilting. Magnetic north has moved. And this is part of the shift as well. Scientists have told us, and I have airline pilot friends who have told me, yeah, we've had to recalibrate our instruments every year or so because magnetic north seems to be moving. So the Earth is actually tilting. So this could cause an earthquake in the ocean. And again, it could be natural. Maybe it's induced. Maybe it's, somehow manipulated. I don't know. But what I'm getting at is something like that. And I hope to God it doesn't happen. But could you imagine a 100-foot wall, water hitting Southern California? How devastating that would be?
The ring of fire. Yeah, the ring of fire. But right now, anything that happens, I question. Doesn't matter if it's a hurricane, a storm, or whatever. I've seen weird weather, and everybody's like, oh, climate change. Do you realize that they have technology to change this, to stop it if they wanted to, but they don't? So all these hurricanes that are mysteriously going to red states, these earthquakes, even Haiti years ago, they hadn't had an earthquake since the late 1700s. All of a sudden, they found gold. The Clintons are all the way there, and I don't need to tell you what we saw there. I have some information that I've never shared because this is the kind of stuff where the FBI will knock on your door. But it seems to me that they are going after resources. I've heard months before, or a couple of years before in Asheville, the government and the people were fighting because they wanted permits for mining lithium quartz. And a lot of the people said no. I mean, there's a lot of, easements and people's properties that were going to be expropriated. So the town said no. All right. So you're saying no, BlackRock comes along and says, let's use all our technology to wipe the whole town up to the point that people can't rebuild. And this is what's happening in Hawaii, in Acapulco, and in many other places, in Paradise, California. So what can we do as a society to stop this when most people say, you're just a conspiracy theorist, you're just watching too much science fiction?
Well, the good news, Mel, is because of this cosmic energy and because more people are awakening, we conspiracy researchers, or truthers, as I like to call us, have been accurate about 99% of the time. Okay? We've shown you the evidence, and people don't want to see it. That's up to them. So all we're going to keep doing is the same thing. We're going to keep putting the information out. Hey, wake up. You're being manipulated. Here's the information. Look here. And just focus on those folks that want to look at the information, those folks that are on the fence, that want to understand it. Forget about the ones that are just going to be pessimistic and, are going to say you're crazy and all that. Just push them away, because humanity is dividing. And this is one of the things I saw years ago, was humanity was going to divide between those that are awake and understand how things are working and those that do not want to be a part of, that other side. So your job, my job, is to continue to awaken as many people as possible to the understanding of what's really going on. That we have criminal, predatory corporations that are using their influence, power, money, leverage, whatever, for themselves and to benefit their own, people, their own organizations, the so-called elite, that whole society. So we just keep doing what we're doing. As long as we have a voice, we have the internet, we have technology, we have cell phones, whatever it is, as long as we have that going on, we just keep pushing along. Because the astrology is indicating, and I know you've had other astrologers on, Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. This is not humanity staying docile. This is humanity waking up, especially Pluto in Aquarius. This is humanity rebelling against everything that's trying to control it. And that's in the next 18 to 20 years. So there's no easy way out of this scenario without some sort of friction. And so it's just how comfortable we want this friction to be. And do we want to go back to local communities, local farming, and not depending on the big corporations, pushing away from the big criminal corporations as much as possible. And speaking of controlling, there are out in Globe, Arizona, they're trying to get the land over there as well. And the local Indian tribes are going, no, you're not coming in here. I don't know if it's lithium or there was something else that were digging, copper. It was copper. The copper mines in Globe and, in that region up in that area. And so, again, the big international criminal corporations are coming in and trying to buy up the land and trying to make deals with the folks there. And they're going, no, we don't want this here. We don't want this here. So look for, again, southern Arizona to be a target of some sort of, change or weather manipulation or explosion. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's going to, again, be affecting the United States. And by the way, I made this call about a year ago in one of the videos. I said to watch Arizona, because Arizona, it was formulated under the sign of Aquarius, February 14th. And so February 14th, when Pluto goes into Aquarius, these states that are, and there was like 4 or 5 of them that were born under the sign of, or created under the sign of Aquarius, these are the states you need to watch, because many of the changes to society will begin in these Aquarian states, because Aquarius is all about rebellion. Aquarius is all about the future, and the people are usually, ahead of the curve in a sense, you see? So we're going to see a lot of changes occur, and Arizona will be one of the states that leads the way in the future with new technology, a new way of life, spirituality, mysticism, whatever you want to call it, because of its rich history, because of the way the state is structured, because of the way the state is being influenced. So I think Arizona is going to play a major role in the coming years, not just politically, but I think economically, socially, the whole 9 yards, And
all these eclipses you're talking about, the September 17th, the October the 2nd, when October the 1st happened, what did we see immediately? Iran, Israel, Lebanon,
Right.
boom.
Right.
October 17th is the next one. Do you see always something that after the eclipse happens, it gets triggered?
Well,
do they do it on purpose?
Yes, they do it on purpose. Absolutely. They follow the cycles of the astrology, and they have their own unique way of doing it, because they've been studying this stuff a long time. And it's the same people, probably, hundreds, if not thousands of years, the same families, the same understanding of patterns and cycles. So around these powerful eclipses, they love to perform rituals. And some of them are private, but some of them have to be public. And so what did we witness? We had the September 17th lunar eclipse, which was in Pisces, and it was a very strong Pisces eclipse. It was a super moon. And then the next one they knew was coming is October 2nd. So what took place? The hurricane, and Pisces is a water sign. So what happened? The water devastated a region, it caused or created, something that they wanted, something that they needed. They needed fear. They needed emotion. They needed something to shake humanity. And that's what all of these, false flags are, whether you're talking about the Gulf, the Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Yep.
Yeah. 9/11, whatever, you name it. They love doing that stuff because it shocks people. And they feed off of that energy. And again, it's reinforcing that fear. That's how they've controlled humanity for thousands of years, is out of fear.
Because it's their food.
Right. Exactly. So, but these eclipses were very powerful. But at the beginning of the year, Mel, we had a very powerful eclipse in Aries. Now, Aries is the god of war. It's new beginnings. It's the sign of self. And that one was very strong as well. So
the one in April?
The one in April, the one that happened on April 8th.
Yeah.
Okay. And tomorrow, since we're doing this on the 7th, on October the 8th is exactly 6 months to the date from that eclipse. So I said to my folks online, watch this week going into the following week, that there could be an event or a major event that takes place. And a perfect example of this is, I said, at the 3-month mark, look for a major news item or some event that's going to take place that the world's going to know about. So what happens at the 3-month mark from April the 8th? July 13th. Who got shot in the ear?
Oh, Trump, yes.
You see what I'm saying? And so this is the 6th month, which is, again, a very tumultuous, strong alignment. So between now and the next week or so, look for another major event that's going to take place. And it just keeps coming, because eclipses are doorways that open and close, and they're very powerful. A solar eclipse is a reset in a sense, and lunar eclipses are endings or completions or realizations. And so these two are very powerful, and we have these outer planet alignments right before the election or right during the election. So this is like an opportune time for them to strike to do something so big or so important to shock people, to feed off of them, to confuse them, and God forbid let's say God, and I say God forbid because one of the things many astrologers are saying is that Trump needs to watch himself because he's in danger. They already tried to assassinate him twice. You heard about the other one with the gunman on the golf course. So the next one suggests, again, either something with his head or maybe they give him poison. Could you imagine, and I hope to God it does not happen, that they, take care of Trump and he's no longer around? What would happen then?
The second one, he had all the schedules that where Trump was at every. Right. Somebody's obviously passing information to them. So I wonder, is this part of the plan? Because if Schumer said, if we really want to get in, against the intelligence apparatus, we'll have 6 days. What did he say? 10 ways till Sunday to get you. If they really wanted to get rid of him, there's so many ways to do it. Exactly. Are they waiting for the right moment to do it, or is this just a show?
And I often question that too, Mel. I honestly question it. Again, like I said, the only reason I support Trump is because he's helping to awake humanity. But what if Trump is part of all this? What if he's playing a role as well? And these extraterrestrials or these higher beings or wherever they are, I've always known that they're not here to guide humanity or not really guide, but they're not really here to save humanity or anything like that. They just see the earth as some form of laboratory, and they just don't want, destruction and chaos because it seems to affect them as well. So what if they're just doing all this to keep humanity pacified and keep them busy doing something else while they continue doing what they're doing? I mean, I've thought about it all. I've thought about every possibility, and so, but the one thing I know is going to happen is this solar event. And I've mentioned this many times throughout the year about a solar flash. And this could be coming from the galactic center through the sun. And notice just at the beginning of the month, we had 2 very powerful X flares. Okay. One was a 7, one was a 9. These are huge, Mel. And so there could be a solar event that takes place. And this energy washes over us and literally brings back a lot of memories. It wakes us up or it changes us in some way. And so maybe they're preparing us for something like that, Are
you implying that Carrington, I mean, even with Asheville, they've lost, I don't know how many transformers, and it takes a long time to manufacture transformers. But if there's a Carrington event that happened in the late 1800s, if it happens now, how long will we be in the dark?
Oh, that's a good question. Months in the dark, because look at how sensitive our electronics are. Everything has resistors and capacitors, and that's the first thing to get fried in electronics. Okay. I've got friends who are professional car mechanics, and, over the years, I've talked to them and they say, I've never seen so many computers getting fried for no apparent reason. And it just clicked on my head and going, solar events, solar activity, X flares popping off at a certain time would be able to do that, because we already know it affects the ham radios and technology of that nature. So to answer your question, it would be another world. It would be pretty damn devastating, because especially around the major cities, because no one there knows how to grow food. No one there knows where even the food comes from. So it would be mayhem. But the so-called white hats, and whoever's running the show right now does not want that. Does not want that kind of chaos, because it would cause too much negative energy in the air, and we don't need that. But the dark ones don't have a problem with the negative energy, because that's what they want. So it's very hard to say, but I never got the feeling that the solar flash was going to be devastating, because the vision I had in 2008, 2009 was we were looking up at the sky and something was taking place here. And it could be that asteroid that is now circling the moon, Mel. Okay.
That's that supposed second moon?
Yes, up until November the 25th. Okay. And so what does the moon regulate on the earth? Right? The water, the tides. if we have a second moon up there, it's possible that this may throw things off and cause, a tsunami or, weird weather on the coastlines. Have you thought about that one, Mel?
Well, of course I've thought about that one, but going back to what you said about the Transformers, Dr. Paul Laviolette, rest in peace, he told me, I asked him that question, if there's another Carrington event, how long would it take for the United States to get back on track and have, electricity again? He says it would take over a decade to produce those Transformers, over a decade. And also in the mid-1800s, we had, most of Americans were self-sufficient. They plant their own food, 50%. In the mid-1900s, 40%. Guess what the number is now? 0.1%.
Exactly. It would be devastating. It would absolutely, totally be devastating. No electricity, no power, no way to process anything. And we'd be back in the Stone Ages. So, it's something to think about. And I hope it doesn't happen. But this is why I watch space weather and I keep an eye on that stuff going on, because it is important. Every time those flares go off, if a big one comes along, like an X-20 or whatever it is. I mean, I don't remember what the highest recorded one was, but it was pretty high up there. And it could literally fry things easily, go right through any form of electronic, cell phones, and just fry, one or two capacitors or resistors or whatever's inside. And that's it. And so it would be a completely different world at that point.
I tell people to go back and watch the TV series. I hardly watch TV, but sometimes you get some that are telling you something, and that's why they get canceled. And that was the case with the TV series Jericho. I don't know if you ever watched that series.
No, I never saw it.
It was great, and it was exactly the scenario of an EMP and what happens in the United States. But we have to take a one and only break. Joseph, how can people learn more about your work?
Well, I have several websites and a community. So planetswithin.com or josephpanthony.com. You'll get all the information on there, including my monthly newsletter. It's totally free. So
excellent. We have one more hour, and when we come back, I want to talk predictions. I also want to know, with this cosmic shift that we're seeing now, are they dismantling certain institutions, or is it more about restructuring the existing systems? Joseph P. Anthony will be back with us for one more hour. This is Mel Hasselrick, and you are listening to VERITAS. Don't go anywhere. Thank you for listening to the first part of this important VERITAS episode. To listen to the rest and access all of our exclusive material, head over to the Veritas Plus member section or click the subscribe button at veritasproject.com. Don't forget to visit the Veritas store for a range of great products, including focused life force energy. Experience the benefits with a 15-day free trial of FLFE today. No credit card required. If you'd like to get in touch with me, be a guest on the program, have a guest suggestion, or want to provide feedback, just click the contact button on our website at veritasproject.com. Thank you for listening to The Veritas Project, because you don't want to believe, you want to know.